Sue?
Yeah.
I don't know. I've lost track. Right. So I'm just going to scroll slowly through the studies and then focus on the final one. So some of the, I have to say, en route. I love that painting. Like when I talk about that painting.
Well, straight away it's just texture. I love it. Expressive. Oh, I just want to stick my fingers in it. I love everything like this. It's very woody. I think it obviously I don't know what the background is, but I do see bark and trees and woody. You know, this is absolutely beautiful. And in a way, even though it looks like it's a piece of wood, is that right? Looks like it's a piece of wood. Has been like it looks as though it's painted into the back, but I can also see like feathers in it. Bizarrely, some of the mark making looks quite feathery, but then there's also like that bit over to the left there looks a bit like sorry, to the right, not the left. Yeah, that bit there. It's quite like an oyster.
Just check I'm on 100%. Yeah. I'm very. Oh, sorry. Well, I can talk a bit, can I? I'm really interested that I appear to have just gone past some very able painting of bark trees, studies of individual trees that look to me like they're on paper or canvas or board or whatever, flat things.
Yep.
And then at the end, it appears to be imagery from those paintings reapplied to a tree.
Right, okay, yeah.
That
I love it.
Okay. Who's that? Sue, do you want to add anything to also so far what we've got, apart from all this I love it, which frankly is not, you're not supposed to be, that's not, anyway, but the content was a lot of texture, and also, although it's centrally about a tree, it's also got other natural, you can spot other natural forms.
Yeah, I think that well, it locates us in a place. So strong location and sense of place because I'm guessing that some it must be. I can't quite imagine how you've done it, but I actually love the central hall, the right there. It's like you're being given a view of a landscape. I'll call it a landscape. It's a tree. You're being given a view of a landscape, but then you're being sort of teased into the fact that there's something behind it. I like the fact that you have maintained this very organic feeling throughout. There's no hard edges, but there is lots of texture, there's lots of different layers. You can almost feel that if you put your hand on it, you could feel the bark. So it's very, even though I don't know if it's 2D or 3D, but it looks very 3D, looks very tactile. And yet, there's also a feeling of it being splayed, almost like the tree has been almost like an animal's been, the hide's been taken off and flattened and put on the floor like a carpet. This is almost like the tree
spatchcocked, maybe.
Sorry?
Spatchcocked.
Yeah, a little bit, but flattened. I mean, really sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah, really flattened. But again, so there's a number of different things, and I guess it depends which way your mind goes. This is one where definitely to be able to see it in real life would make a huge difference. But that the space in the middle just keeps drawing me as if to say, okay, this is the sort of flattened 2 dimension, but there's something else behind it.
Very interesting concept, isn't it? To paint all this stuff back onto a tree, having taken it away. Graham, do you want to?
Yeah, I really like this. First of all, the overall shape, outline of it, and then the colours and the texture. It puts me in mind of birds and wings and flight and animals of some sort. I'm not quite sure what, but I feel I could look at it for a long time and find things in it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's from the bit where you have to think about pareidolia. I don't know if it is, but but it's got that sense that you might find a world in it. You might find.
Yeah. Who was that artist who used to paint almost they were sort of scenes that looked like almost Greek columns and rock formations, but there were faces in them.
It's one of the surrealists, and I can never remember who. But I'll get that to you towards.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't have the book, but that's what it puts me in mind. Which one?
The Chirico.
Oh, did he do the? Anyway, yeah. I'll
Anyway, but that's what it puts me in mind of, that you can look at it and you can look at it superficially and you can say it's a tree and it's got bark and obviously the kind of white bits look like sap, as strings of sap, and but then I feel as though if you looked hard enough there would be faces in it, or animals or birds or something.
It feels quite respectful to me. It feels quite loving to me, and it's got that sense of just the sheer detail. Like someone painting little models or something. It's got that just the sheer labour that went into recreating these moments. And it is camouflage, isn't it? There are different forms of terrain here and different forms of natural lichen and bark and but also plants. I don't know what that is. It's really an intriguing, and I agree that these things would be quite absorbing to sit and look at, wouldn't they? And I'm really interested to find out from Gary in a minute how they relate to the paintings.
I think as well, seeing that central hole, it's like a vortex, so even the shape of it looks like it's spinning. It could be spinning in a way. And the white bits, to me, I see cobwebs. It's just like looking at loads of different skin, fur, reptilian scales, like all merging into one in this vortex. Like,
it would be so interesting to have because you could imagine a little exhibition staged between a lot of you, because there's an element of this is what a tree looks like to a very small child. Like, when you've stuck your finger in a hole in a tree, or when you're bark close to a child, but it's also got that kind of Gaia, green man, religious thing going on, of kind of a real homage to nature and to the tree, and people have talked about possible an animus or animated animals, this kind of notion that it's alive in some way. So it does seem to feed in to the themes that we've been discussing over the piece in some ways. And I think it's rather lovely that all the work that we've seen has been so serious in a way, and so passionate about its subject. But anyway, over to you, Gary. Have we picked have your peer? Oh, that's much better. I don't know what I did then. Have we picked up on things that are useful to you, and have we We got it.
Yes,
Right,
you
okay.
have. Yeah, thanks very much. So obviously, reveal some secrets now. So some of this, they began with paint on paper, and a lot of the textures you're seeing, like the oyster shell that Graham mentioned, that's actually leaves mixed in with the paint. If you move downwards, I think Rachel liked this kind of area to the bottom right. That's actually conifer. Mixed in with the paint as well. So it's all about bringing elements from the actual area, which is a woodland about 2 minutes away from my house. So that's this sort of area I've sort of painted. There's obviously dirt within the paint and stuff like that. And then I've taken these pictures. It's kind of grown into this sculptural piece because the exercise was actually to assemble. So I've taken these actual pictures that were flat and 2D and kind of assembled them, and in the assemblage it's become 2D. Interestingly, just left this sort of like beige area just left of the hole. It's kind of here, no, just below that, to the right. This is kind of sort of, yeah. So he was on it. No, just above and left. That's actually more stuff that's actually for a burger box. So all the rubbish and stuff like that that's contained within the forest, sort of man's element and man's destruction, is also part of the woodland. So I've incorporated actually litter into here and sort of camouflaged it in as part of the assemblage as well. And it's also the layers is kind of built up with polystyrene and kind of homemade gesso and sort of filler made of baby powder, PVA glue and poster paint really, and then that's sort of laid on thickly to get these transitions between actually the assembled bits of wood and the paintings, and then it's all blended in so it becomes one and organic with itself really.
Yeah, that is. I mean, it's completely. The most sticky outy one is that one, but I'm on board with that, and I think I would never have known. You know, I mean, Susan said is. I just thought you just basically yanked a bit of bark off. I thought that was.
No, so it's only literally the 1, 2, 3, 4 bits of driftwood. One there, one central, the pointy one, and the top left is actually wood. The rest is my paintings, homemade gesso, polystyrene, and the different elements brought together.
And again, with there's this idea of secrets, things being unpacked, things being concealed. I think I would imagine that having the painting in this format would make it really engaging for like children, or it's.
Yeah, and obviously everyone mentioned about the hole and the eye. That's a deliberate composition choice, obviously, because there's so much going. It keeps the person within the painting. It draws you back in naturally to this bullseye kind of area. So that's why this sort of wood is sort of curves you in towards the eye. This sort of area, the area below the eye, sort of wraps you back into it. The area above the eye sucks you back into it, and it's all drawn back into the middle, which gives it extra depth, that mystery. I quite like the kind of light tones around the actual eye, which looks like sunlight, just kind of peeking through there, which I think I was pleased with really.
Yeah, I thought it was a sort of you had to do it because of I thought but the idea that you constructed that knowingly, I think that is really
Yeah.
is impressive because it does. You could almost have a tiny landscape in there, couldn't you? At times.
Yeah. So
And
that
do you think this way? Can you imagine yourself making? I mean, how do you think this might influence? Because your paintings, we can go up to, a painting like this, say.
yeah.
It is a very physical painting, isn't it? It's reminiscent of Susan's box paintings, where it's got that. I can feel this is a solid object that I'm looking at here.
Yeah.
Quite, heavy.
Quite bold, constructed more than anything. Yeah.
Like German 80s German painting. It's got that kind of very physical quality to it. But so, and obviously people like Anselm Kiefer and others, do embed.
Yeah.
So, you seeing that as possibly somewhere that you'd want to go, or do you really enjoy constructing forms purely out of pain?
Possibly, I've kind of gone to something different, to be honest. So a lot of my early works were kind of narrative based and stuff like that. My drawings are narrative based. So this one I've kind of gone more abstract. So rather than, we know it's a tree, or a part of a tree, but it's not actually the physical, like, sort of, I don't know, the avatar of a tree. You don't get it, yeah. You don't get it.
So
It is. So it's looking
Yeah.
at it's looking at abstraction. It's looking at close up composition. It's looking at texture, and yeah, and it's
actually, going back to Tonks and going back to titling, if this was fallen Ukrainian soldier detail, it is a tree, but it's possibly a fallen tree.
yeah,
Actually, it's a writhing form, and potentially could be a figure kind of in camouflage or whatever. So I think it's a really potent painting, and it's interesting to see. Hang on, are you telling me then you cut these paintings up? They don't exist anymore?
yeah. They don't exist no more. No, I've literally. Yeah, so as you see, the digital copies, that's it now. So they've literally been sort of butchered, and it goes into the final piece, really.
All right. Well, you keep hold of those. Thank God for digital assessment, because they are so you are free to submit them for assessment.
Yeah.
Just to, if that's
So that one you just scroll past. That's that central part. That beige part is the burger box. It's got plastic bag in there, packet of crisps in there. So and that obviously when you read about solastalgia and man's influence and destruction of a beautiful natural place, that's why that's in there, because it's just as much as part of the woodland now than the actual trees and the nature.
you come across as a lovely video of George Shaw talking about his local woodland, because his local woodland is effectively a kind of edgeland. So it's used by the young people to have sex, to look at pornographic magazines, to sell drugs to each other. So it's a space of secrets. It's a low space. People are not going there to look at the lovely wildlife. They're going there to be concealed. Of course, the lovely wildlife exists around that, and he has made a really lovely video, talking about that and his experience of nature in those kinds of environments, and how people and nature coexist, and making some really nice points about who's caring for these young people, and I don't know. You'd have to watch it, but he says it really beautifully.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's really exciting, and this must be at scale then. How big is this?
So I made it. I made notes. It is roughly, if you take it as a kind of a square composition, it's kind of 42 inches by 41 inches. So it's quite a substantial piece, because obviously the original pieces of where there's several were 7 inches by 8.5 inches, and it contains 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One that's slightly bigger. At least about 10 paintings are within this kind of sculpture, really. So it is a substantial, quite big piece.
Wow. Well, that's brilliant. Oh, 5 minutes. Okay, we've got 5 minutes left, and I think that's time for me to say thank you very much